You've likely heard of the Cannes Film Festival, but did you know its scandalous history? Neither did we.
You're listening to Travel FOMO, a podcast for people self-diagnosed with wanderlust.
Thanks for tuning in to the Travel FOMO podcast. If you're like me, you are looking to get swept away to another place today, and that is exactly what we're going to do for you. My name is Hillary Houghton, and I'm here with my husband and the star of the gap year, Jamin Houghton.
Co-star.
Oh, giving me credits.
It's maybe more like featured.
We are in the middle of season 7, sharing our insights from Mediterranean Europe. And today we are going to Cannes.
Yes, full celebrity mode.
What?
Looking for movie stars.
Yes.
And we were in Cannes just after the film festival every May for 12 days. All of the big stars come in and they debut all of their big movies and they make all their big deals and they do all their big promotions, and it all happens right there in Cannes.
Yes.
And you can see why. It's a beautiful place.
Yeah, like right on the French Riviera, right on the ocean, all these yachts everywhere. It's kind of like,
yeah,
it's awesome.
The yachts are incredible. I mean, you will have a beautiful yacht worth hundreds of millions of dollars. And there in Cannes, it's like, it's just kind of another boat.
Right? It's just like the average is so extreme that you're like, whoa.
Yeah. There's no way, if I had a yacht, there's no way I would ever go to Cannes because there's going to be 20 people there with a better yacht than your yacht, no matter what yacht you have.
Well, and half the time, nobody's even on the yacht. They just looked empty.
Yeah, they're just
crazy.
out there with like some guy washing them.
Yeah,
like
exactly.
That's it.
But it definitely attracts celebrities, and I guess the film festival is really, kind of what turned it into that kind of a place.
Yeah.
But the festival, I was looking into it, it has such an interesting history. It's an international film festival, so think about like people coming from all over the world and with all these different movies, and it was actually created as a rival to the Venice Film Festival.
Mm-hmm.
And so, of course, they wanted a place with an incredible backdrop like Venice,
Right.
And so it came about around the time of World War II, and originally it wasn't even going to be in Cannes. It was going to be in some other city named Biarritz. I think that's how you would say it. But it wasn't even going to be in Cannes, and the people of Cannes really, advocated for it and eventually won the right to host it. But the first festival was actually going to take place in September 1939, which, if you think about the context of that.
Great timing.
Oh my gosh. It's like World War II is happening. And the festival attendees had actually already arrived for parties, and this was in September of 1939, and on that first day of the festival, German troops invaded Poland, which it's kind of, this tells you how detached we are as Americans, because I read that and I was like, okay, that's not France, German and Poland, that's not France. With my American mindset, it feels so far away.
Right.
And I'm used to other countries just being really far away. But in Europe, that's really close, and that has a huge impact on them.
Yeah.
When that invasion happened, the festival was actually postponed for 10 days. And then the situation it honestly just kept getting worse. So they were forced to cancel everything. And then it would be 7 more years before it would actually take place.
Wow.
Can you imagine putting off your event for 7 years? We saw a lot of things happen with COVID and things get canceled, but 7 years is a long time.
I feel like you would almost feel like this isn't supposed to happen.
Oh, right. We've never done this before.
There would be a lot of that mindset going around of we tried to do this and World War II happened.
World War II broke out. Yeah, that's true.
We're not going to do this here.
That's true.
We've got to do it somewhere else just to make it different, just to not have that reminder.
That's true. Yeah.
Of everybody coming back and being like, oh man, you remember last time. And
Yeah,
like we
last
had
time
no
we were here.
idea how bad things were about to get.
Right. Yeah, that's a good point. This particular festival is it sounds like to me like it's a little bit more unique in that they really defend filmmakers' freedom of expression. They don't really give in to diplomatic pressure. And here are some really good examples that I was reading up on. I was like, oh my gosh, this is crazy. So in some cases, people feel like it's been pretty scandalous because back in 1960, there was a movie called La Dolce Vita, and it was considered pornographic by some people. And I don't know how we would gauge it today, but definitely at that time. And it was so controversial at the Vatican that they threatened to excommunicate anyone who even saw the movie. Can you imagine being at the festival and you're like, well, I can't. Like, I just can't.
Yes, you go to the movie and you get excommunicated for going to a movie.
Right.
That's
I'd be like,
pretty crazy.
I'm no longer Catholic if I do that. Like, that would be crazy.
Yeah.
And then another example was in 1961. So like the very next year, there was a film called Viridiana, I believe is how you'd say it. And it was actually a co-winner of the Palme d'Or, which is like the festival's top prize, if I'm understanding it correctly. The movie like kind of criticized religion, I guess. And I haven't seen it, but there's a scene that even mimics the Last Supper, and people felt like that was disrespectful. And then in Spain, you've got Franco reigning in Spain, and he tried to censor the movie, but the movie director sent the film anyway, and it arrived to Cannes the night before the screening. So it was kind of like, we've got to get this there. And just like right before
so
that way,
can't stop it.
Yeah, so nobody can stop this from happening. And the Vatican was like outraged, and the director was forbidden. So the director of the movie was forbidden from returning to Spain, which is crazy.
That is crazy.
And then the only reason that the movie still exists today is because one of the Mexican actress who was starring in the film, Silvia Pinal, she saved a copy of it and by sending it to Mexico, which at the time, Mexico was a country that didn't really have a relationship with Spain. And so there was no real threat there for her to just, send it to Spain so she could have a copy. And that's really why the movie is even around today. I think you can even like look it up and watch it on YouTube or something like that.
So the movie like hung out in Mexico.
Yeah. Until it was safe to like
escape to Mexico.
Right. Let people
Butch
see it.
Cassidy style.
Isn't that crazy?
That is crazy.
That's so crazy. Another thing that is really popular to do there is the actors are, a lot of actors are seen on the beach there. I think some have even been photographed topless in Cannes, which for us, it would be no surprise.
Yeah.
But for America, it's like, for us having seen that beach and seen, that is very common.
Yeah, that's the norm.
It's not really a big deal there, but that would be considered scandalous in America.
Yeah.
If you guys kind of rewind back to 2006, Sacha Baron Cohen was doing that mockumentary film Borat that he really became famous for. And he was making fun of all of the Cannes skin bearing, things that people kept doing for the press in Cannes and, being out on the beach with no, clothes and stuff like that. And so he showed up wearing like a mankini, like this lime green mankini. And if you guys go look it up, it is so funny.
I remember that happening.
Oh my gosh. It's so funny because he's so hairy and just funny,
It's not a good look.
Oh gosh, it's hilarious. But really good publicity, right?
Yes.
All publicity is good publicity.
Well, I still remember it.
Right.
From
yeah.
like however long ago.
Good point. Yeah. And then a couple years later in 2008, this is kind of a funny story too. Jack Black was promoting the movie Kung Fu Panda, and he accidentally announced that his co-star Angelina Jolie, he accidentally announced that she was expecting twins with Brad Pitt. And I guess I don't know if people knew she was pregnant at the time or if people just didn't know they were twins or whatever, but he had heard that leaked and his wife had seen it in some celebrity magazine or something. And so Jack Black just assumed everybody kind of knew it was twins. He didn't think he was revealing anything. And then come to find out it was actually a really big deal.
So you should have cashed in with TMZ or something to
I know, right?
get exclusives on that.
Instead, he got a bad rap for it.
I was kind of surprised at how much of like the stories and things like that of like the celebrity minglings there. Like you think of the film festival and you're like, that's a big deal. Movie star is going to come in for his film and go. But I remember in anticipation of going, seeing stuff come through on my Google feed or whatever about the film festival as it was happening right before we got there.
Yeah.
And like a big deal this year was like, I think Kevin Spacey and James Franco were there trying to do like they weren't even promoting anything, but they were trying to do some like image repair to like try to get back into some projects that they'd all gotten dropped from because of like bad press and things like that. And so just all these business dealings and stuff, like all of that circulation, like happening there for that like condensed period of time is kind of crazy.
It is crazy because you realize how much strategy is going on behind the scenes at con, like in the film festival.
Mm-hmm.
It's really pretty fascinating.
Yeah.
And I think it was the 75th anniversary, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
I believe we've got like footage of like all the signage that's up in the streets and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah. They still had a lot of barricades and banners and things like that up.
Yeah. You guys can actually check all of that out in the YouTube video. You can kind of see some of the remnants of the Cannes Film Festival, including me posing on a red carpet because it only felt right.
You were walking the red carpet, I think on a run, right?
In my running clothes.
Yeah.
Well, I managed to get some photos in front of the red carpet multiple times.
Yeah, you did it a few times. You were going to pass that up.
Exactly.
But it was really nice there. The weather was great there. We arrived by train from Barcelona.
Yeah.
I remember it being really busy. Like I think it was leading up to a holiday. And so it was a holiday weekend in France, which again meant like we had to get our tickets and stuff figured out. But we had finally worked all of that out where in Lyon, we had that guy had helped us get tickets for our French train. And in Barcelona, that guy helped us get tickets for our Spanish train. So we were able to get the reservations, use our Eurail pass and finally make it there.
Well, and the thing about and I know we've said this before, but if you haven't heard all of the other podcasts, note to travelers, if you're doing a Eurail pass and you're using it in France and Spain, if you need a reservation, and a lot of times you will, you're going to need to go to the train station. You can't do those reservations on like a website. So
right.
That is just worth noting every time because it really does change how you spend your time when you're physically there.
Yeah, you have to physically go into a station. Like in Italy, you can do it online, which is great.
Yeah,
and
a lot
helpful.
of places.
And so that technology exists and just serves to frustrate me to no end.
You do always bring that up. You're like, I know it can happen. Other countries do it.
Yeah, if Italy can figure it out with their train system, like France, come on, let's get going here. Exactly. But it still is a great way and a really cool train ride from Barcelona to Cannes because you're all along the coast.
Yeah,
and so like really beautiful views and all of that.
And we ended up we had to make train reservations. We had to get the earliest train because of the holiday and so many people.
Yeah.
But then we got to be in first class, which was really nice.
That was nice. Yeah. We had to pay to do
True.
first class, but that was all that was left.
Yeah.
Otherwise we wouldn't have. But it was nice to have the bigger, comfier seat. Do you think first class is worth it on a train?
Man, it depends on the train, and I don't think you can really know what your train is truly going to be like in most cases.
Yeah, I would agree. I think for the most part, for me, I'm like, it's a train ride.
Yeah.
If I'm on the train and there's a seat, then that's fine. Now in the Czech Republic, there were cars without air conditioning, and some of that in Italy too.
Yeah.
So you could sway me there, but I feel like in France and Spain, like as long as I'm on the train, like
Yeah.
I don't know that it makes a big difference.
Right. It is nice to have like an outlet, like to plug in your
Yeah.
appliances and stuff.
Yeah,
Like
that's
that
true.
was always really nice.
And
But
a little
it
more
was
space
pretty
if you're going to be there for a
common.
long time.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So what would you describe con as? Like how would you compare it, or like how would you describe it?
Yeah, it's definitely got beachy vibes
Mm-hmm.
for sure.
Yeah.
Like I was looking back at the footage as I was editing the video, and it's like moms are walking around in swimsuits, pushing strollers,
Yeah.
like in Old Town, not even by the beach. Very beachy, but very classy.
Yeah. Yeah.
So there's this they kind of have this beautiful way that they've blended beachy with classy
Mm-hmm.
in a way, which doesn't always coincide
And
well.
it's kind of hard to do.
It is kind of hard to
Like
do.
especially if you're American. I
Yeah.
feel like a lot of beachy places, especially like tropical, like palm trees and sunshine beachy places, can get a little kitschy and like a little
Yeah,
like run down and a little trashy.
that's true.
But this was not like that.
Yeah, maybe it had to do with the yachts.
That helps.
They help
Yeah.
make it feel really classy.
Yeah.
But it wasn't like as clean and like pristine as I did expect for it to be, but it kind of made it feel more authentic and a little bit more approachable than I thought. Because I was a little not nervous about going to con, but it just felt like, oh, this is going to be so out of my league. And it wasn't. It's just a very nice, easy place to be in.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I was a little worried that it might be kind of stuffy,
Mm-hmm.
but it wasn't.
Yeah.
Like it was really nice. And we like had our first dinner on the beach.
We sure did. We'd been in Valencia and San Sebastian where beach access was so prominent.
Yeah.
And this was one of those cities where the beach is pretty much owned by different restaurants. And
Yeah.
you don't necessarily have good access to the beach. You can see
That's
it.
true.
But
Yeah, we did end up going to the beach that one day, but like it's very small sections of the beach that you could actually just like go hang out on.
yeah,
But yeah, and like dinner on the beach was a nice way to enjoy the beach
for sure.
and, kind of have that ocean view. It was definitely a nice way to spend the first evening.
Yeah,
It was a little pricey.
it was. You had to like convince me. I was like debating. I was like, is this even worth it? Do we even want to do that?
Yeah, we were very budget conscious all throughout all of Europe. And, we're thinking of like, well, if it's not something that we planned out, spending a lot of money on a dinner, is it really worth it? It seems like a big risk.
Right.
But this one paid off. It was worth it.
It was.
And it was nice. Like
You
people
forget, like,
around.
you're
and,
paying for the experience, and the experience
Yeah.
was awesome.
yeah.
And we really only had one full day there. And
Yeah.
so with that in mind, we packed the next day full of stuff, including starting out with an epic run.
Of course, we
Always.
went for a
I'm
run.
so glad we did that.
It was once again you asking me how long the run was going to be and trying to like bargain some form of like shorter run.
Oh my gosh, I was a little disgruntled. You can even see in the video, you're like, we're going on a run. And I was like, yep. No comment.
But the nice thing about the con run was that there is this really great massive sidewalk that kind of goes down the beach.
Yeah.
And it just runs down the beach and runs to the marina and all that. And so you're not crossing streets and you're just getting to look out at the ocean. It makes it not as compelling as like running through a medieval village where there's some kind of church or castle around every corner. It's more of like a consistent view of like really nice city, really nice beach. But still like a great run, nice and flat.
I know. I was like very appreciative of that. And also, you don't have to think too hard about like, where do I go run?
Yeah.
It's just really laid out for you
It's
easily.
just an out and back.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was nice about it. After our run, like after we were through running, we went back, got cleaned up, and kind of hit the town. We went to a little boulangerie.
Yes.
And picked up some breakfast, some little pastries to take out and sit by the dock and watch the yachts go by
Yeah.
as we ate our pastries, which was really cool. Like, I do love that about France and the boulangeries, like with great pastry. They're kind of everywhere. And they're also really small where you just go in and get stuff and then you go out. And it sort of forces you to go like sit in a park, or in this case, sit by the ocean
Yeah.
and eat your breakfast out.
Mm-hmm.
Which I think if left to my own devices, I would probably just like sit inside somewhere and be like, oh, but that French culture sort of like forces you into that, and it ends up being really enjoyable.
Yeah. Oh, I love sitting outside for pretty much any meal.
And we got a show.
Oh
It
my
was
gosh.
breakfast and a show.
Do you remember that lady in the kayak?
Yes.
Oh my goodness, guys. She was just, a few yards off of the beach. And
Yeah.
she's kayaking along, and she's got a kayak with a bag in it, like a big bag as if she's traveling.
Right.
And then a blue and white ice chest. And she's like moving, and she was like working hard, but she wasn't really going anywhere.
No.
I felt so bad for her, but literally I was like, where are you going? Like it wasn't clear. Like it was like, it looks like you've packed for a while. So are you just like, kayaking the French Riviera? But she didn't look that sporty. It felt more like a canoe kind of vibe. I don't know.
Yeah. It was really hard to tell. If you looked at just like the kayak and the stuff, you'd be like, oh, this person started in Italy and they're like kayaking along the coast.
Yeah.
But then if you watch the performance of the kayak, you realize like, oh, you're not going anywhere.
Yeah.
She paddled and paddled and paddled and paddled and paddled and literally did not move. In fact, I think she was losing ground.
It felt like it. Like we were just like walking along leisurely, and I was like, oh, I feel like we could circle her a couple times. I almost wanted to be like, do you need anything? Can I help you?
Right. Well, we'll come back and see you at dinner because you'll be right here.
Oh, man. No, we didn't say a word. We just silently were like, oh, that looks hard.
Yeah. Like, this was a bad choice.
Yeah.
Does the idea of traveling sound overwhelming to you? Perhaps you want to see the world, but you just don't know where to start. Let Hallie help. Working through Travelmation, Hallie is a travel consultant who can take you wherever you want to go, within the U.S. or abroad. As an authorized Disney vacation planner, she can find a family-friendly vacay that won't break the bank. Looking for something more luxurious? She's your girl. Or perhaps you need a walk on the wild side. Hallie books adventures too. Just reach out to Hallie by phone at 972-822-6315 or email her at HALLIENARRAMORE@travelmation.net. Call Hallie to get your dream vacation planned today. We walked up into Old Town, which was really intriguing. I don't
feel like anybody really knows that there's like this old town part of Cannes.
It's like a Roman part of the city.
That's crazy.
And it's up on top of the hill, so amazing views from up there. There was a big chapel up there and things like that. A lot of houses and that very Southern European vibe.
And like a museum. I think there was some kind of museum. You could there were amazing views. So you could see like all the cruise ships out at sea.
Yeah.
I mean, you could look in a bunch of different directions and see a lot, which was really pretty. And I'm sure at night that looks really cool up there.
Yeah. I was going to say if we go back, I would maybe be interested in staying up there just because at night, I'm sure the city looks incredible from up there. It is way up a hill.
Oh, true.
So you got to kind of want it to get up to it.
Right.
If you're
you need
walking.
to wear comfortable shoes if you're going to be walking around Cannes.
Yeah. And this, especially in the old part of the city, the streets are really narrow. A lot of the streets are just pedestrian walkways. And so navigating it with a car, I think, would be a nightmare. But it is worth the hike up there.
Yeah. And wasn't there like an old city wall up there too that we got to walk along? Like it's in good condition.
Yeah. Yeah. It was really close to that church. And I remember standing up there, like looking down at part of the village underneath. And then that church, because we were there on the weekend, mass was letting out and a bunch of people were kind of streaming out of the church, and that was really cool.
Yeah, for sure. And I kept eyeing those cruise ships because I was like, people are gonna get off that cruise ship and it's all gonna be different.
It is a cruise ship town, so you have that like sort of inhale exhale to it every day, where it's like full of people, and then they finally leave.
Yeah.
But
we also came across a flea market, which I was not expecting, but was really cool. And even some of the vendors had like vintage items that were like crazy fashion brands that like are really reputable. Like you might have like a Louis Vuitton item from like 1940 or something.
Yeah.
Which was really cool. I don't even know if Louis Vuitton goes back that far, but you kind of get the idea, like all of this vintage stuff that's name brand, and it was really interesting. I mean, some of that was pricey, you know, because you're talking about like vintage items.
Yeah.
But then there's also a lot of other fun stuff that you could buy, and I ended up getting a vintage necklace for Catherine, our friend Catherine.
That's right, yeah.
And that was just really fun. I just knew in that moment, I was like, there would not be a better opportunity of something to find for her here in France, but then also like she appreciates celebrity vibes too. So I'm always like reaching out to her when I'm like, oh my gosh, did you see what Prince Harry did? Harry and Meghan, OMG. But so like, you know, the whole film festival vibe I thought she would like, but also just vintage things she's got an affinity for.
Yeah.
But also though, do you remember there being antique guns there?
I do, yeah.
That was really interesting.
Yeah, they had a lot of like really cool booths there. I remember seeing some like, they were almost like little trays, like not like an ashtray, but like a little tray that you'd set your like keys or coins in. But you could tell that they were really old, and they were silver, but they were from Paris. And they had like the Eiffel Tower and others like in the Arc de Triomphe, like etched in them and stuff like that. And I remember thinking a lot of that stuff was really cool. And just to see in like a flea market setting like that with a lot of really old stuff was fun. It was fun to look around and see what kind of stuff is there.
Well, and just the idea, like a flea market is always kind of interesting to see old stuff, but then like you're seeing old stuff that's from France.
Right, where people actually know what old is.
Yeah, like the old stuff is way older. It was kind of fascinating, but you know what I also really enjoyed that day was just spending time on the beach. Yeah. And it was like the main attraction.
Yes.
It was a sticky sand beach. We note the sand at different beaches. So I liked that it was not rocky at all. It was nice and sandy.
It was.
But it was sticky sand, which I just think is funny because then whenever you go to walk away, you're like, oh, the sand is going to stick with me all day long.
Taking this sand back to America with me, probably.
Yeah. Well, in France and Spain, they have a lot of topless women on their beaches. That's really common. But also, it's older women really navigate towards that, and I was just so surprised by that, and I really saw that a lot in France.
Yeah.
So I thought that was really interesting, and I just can't imagine seeing my grandma out there topless on a beach. It's kind of crazy.
Yeah, I can't either.
But it's just not a thing. And just in general, the older women, like they went like spaghetti straps, tube tops, whatever they felt like doing. It was just a lot more skin and a lot less clothing, no matter the age. And I just find that to be like so different than in America. It was also really interesting to note that people in Spain and France and Italy, and I know we've mentioned this before, but it still blows my mind. They all slept on the beach whenever they went to the beach, and they would curl up in fetal position. Mm-hmm. And that was so funny to me. Even grown men, it didn't matter, and it didn't matter what they were wearing. It didn't matter, like could be in full, thong bikini, and they would just curl up in a little ball and like go to sleep for an hour or two. And I just thought that was really funny.
That still weirded me out. I can't imagine as a grown man sleeping in public, like just curled up in a ball, especially like on a beach.
I'm just going to
like
have
out
to
in
see
the
that
sun.
one day. One day we're going to get you European enough that you just curl up in the fetal position
like,
on a beach.
Just be like, oh, pop the old shirt off and curl up in a little ball, take a nap right here. So weird.
Well, the other thing that we did that day that was a lot of fun and very much more American was going to see Top Gun Maverick.
Yeah, we couldn't be in Cannes and not go to a movie.
Yes.
And so we went to a movie. I convinced you to go to see Top Gun.
Yeah.
And to see it in English
That was
rather
exciting.
than in French.
Right. I did want to see it in French, but then I so enjoyed it being like hearing people talk in English was just so refreshing.
Do you think Tom Cruise runs as fast in French?
I don't know. That's
or would
a
that
great
make him
question.
slower?
He's such a fast runner.
If you haven't seen Top Gun Maverick, you might be the last person because it's so popular, and Tom Cruise saved the movie industry, has all of the wonderful things that you expected from it, with Goose references and Iceman references.
Yep.
They play on the beach with their
the
shirts
whole
off.
Thing.
Like, it's all of it.
Yes, it is like just like Top Gun, except it's a modern day version of it. But it's like the same kind of like, montage of everyone playing on the beach and music, and it's really funny.
It is Top Gun over again, except Tom Cruise is old.
I will say there were excellent shots that they had of like the planes in the air and the sun setting. I imagine the cinematographers take a lot of pride in the product, because man, it was like really a beautiful movie to watch as well.
Yeah. And it was fun. Like it was very relaxing because it was in English. And aside from talking to each other, it's been a while since we'd heard any English.
Well, you hadn't seen Tom in a while, so it felt like...
Yeah, I hadn't seen Tom Cruise. He's still really fast.
He's so fast.
And it is all of the things that old action movies had. There's good guys and there's bad guys, and there's a challenge to overcome. And doggone it if the good guys don't overcome the challenge.
The good guys won again. That's crazy. And that was a great way to wrap up our only day in Cannes.
Yeah, it was a nice, relaxing, after a long day of running and sightseeing and all this stuff, to like just sit back in a nice, cool theater and relax a little bit.
Yeah. And going back to our Airbnb, you know what? That was the same day we were FaceTiming with our friends, Jeremy and Casey. And we really made an effort to FaceTime with them like once a week. And that was one of those times we were like, okay, we kind of had to time it with the movie just right. And we came back to the Airbnb and like got to get on the computer and talk to them.
Yeah.
Either before or after. And it makes me think of the Airbnb too, because it was a pretty good Airbnb. And the couple that renovated this place, they actually decorated it with paintings that like the woman, the wife, had made herself.
Yeah.
And it was really cool, but they weren't really blatant about it. It was kind of like, I read this letter from the Airbnb host, and then I see their names, and she calls herself Cam. And then I look on the wall at this incredible painting that I kept eyeing anyway. It was just like a real standout photo of a gorilla smoking a cigar. And it was really cool. And I look at it, and the signature on it is Cam. And I'm like, I just have to ask. And so I got on Airbnb on the app, and I'm like messaging with them. And they say, yeah, like that's her artwork. We're going to put some more of it up there. What do you think? And then they really wanted our feedback on the place in general. Yeah. And it was just really cool to engage somebody like that, especially because a lot of the Airbnb hosts, you might be using the translator part of Airbnb, and it wasn't necessarily all super conversational, but they were really interested in our feedback.
Yeah, it is nice to like have that experience with the Airbnb that you're looking for.
Yeah.
Of like, this is somebody local who cares, and I'm engaging in business with a person.
Yeah.
And rather than like a big entity, which more and more of the Airbnbs now are that way, where it's like you find out, oh, it's just owned by some company. But this one gave you all those good feelings that you really wanted.
I'm going to actually leave the link to the Airbnb in our show notes so that you guys can find it. If you're looking for a place in Cannes, it was really affordable, and also they were great to work with. And the self check-in was like a true self check-in.
Yes.
Like they're not going to ask you to meet them somewhere at a certain time and all of that. Like you're going to be able to access with I can't remember I think it was a keypad or something that allowed us to get the keys and all that kind of stuff. So it was truly convenient and what you would expect from that perspective.
Yeah, it was really nice and good location. We walked to and from the train station and then walked everywhere we went.
Yeah.
So we didn't do any public transport while we were there, and so the location was great.
Yeah. Where did we go after Cannes? I don't even remember. You're working on it though, right?
We went to Monaco.
Oh yeah. Went to Monaco, to Monte Carlo.
Yep.
In Monaco, second smallest country in the world. Is that right?
Yeah, it's just a little bit over 2 square kilometers.
Yeah.
So less than a square mile, the entire country.
Crazy. And it's almost all on a cliff, which is really fun and different too. It's where the Grand Prix happens.
Yes.
There's a great casino there. And talk about yachts. That is where mega yachts are.
Yacht scene there was crazy.
Crazy. Oh my gosh. Yeah. So you guys are going to want to check that out next week. But for now, you can find us on social. We are on TikTok and Facebook, Instagram, but then also go ahead and find your way onto YouTube and type in Travel FOMO Podcast in the search bar and you will find us. And that is the best way to catch our full videos. And there's so much to see there, so much that we don't even necessarily get to talk about here. And I feel like it's 2 totally different things that we get to offer you guys, because there's the video and the things that happen along the way, which are funny and different, and we don't always necessarily highlight them here in the podcast. And so it's just another resource for you guys.
Yeah, they really are something completely, well, not completely different, but very different from the podcast itself. About the same place, about the same experience, but a different side of it, and a lot of visual stuff. You can see some of the things that we're talking about. So it's a great way to do it. We also have another way for you to connect with us. If you're not connecting with us through social media and all that stuff, we want you to do that. But we also wanted to offer another avenue for you to share your stories with us. So we opened up our email account. It's travelfilmopodcast@gmail.com. That is travelfilmopodcast@gmail.com. And what we would like for you to do is just share some of your travel stories with us so that we can in turn share them on the show. You can do that a couple of ways. You can type a traditional email, or if you want to be cool and hip, you can record a voice memo and just email us that voice memo and we can play it as part of our podcast. So if you want to tell your story yourself, rather than having me stumble through reading it, you can do that. We hope to hear a lot of great travel stories. It can be maybe a time that you went to Cannes or France or anywhere that you had a great time and you really enjoyed the trip, or it was a really terrible trip and it was really dramatic, or something funny happened. Any of your travel stories, we want them. Please share them with us so that we can share them with everyone else.
And I really hope you guys use the voice memo option. I really want people to send voice memos, because it's so fun to hear people's stories in their own words with their own inflections.
Yeah.
And we could read, something that you write in an email, but it would be so cool to get to hear you share that story yourself. And it makes other people brave too. So if you're on the border of it, go ahead and do it. We'll make you sound great. Don't you worry about that. Do it, and that will encourage other people to as well and make other people brave.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, guys. Well, that is all we have for you today, and we will let you go because life is so short.
Wander well.